Welcome back everyone and very good morning. Today we'll be beginning with session 2 of the week 4 of the course Retail Marketing Strategy. Now, as far as the last session was concerned, I really hope that you had fun time learning about the private label brands or the basics of private label brands and how they were earlier considered as the cheap and nasty substitutes for national level brands, and then the transformation which they had, whether it was with respect to the quality which they are enjoying now, or even becoming a part of the preferential list of the customers as far as the retailing dynamics are concerned. Now, as we move further, we'll be delving into a lot more into this. Along with that, we'll be having an introduction of the multi and omni-channel retailing. However, in bits and pieces, we have already discussed about this in earlier sessions of this course. Now, as far as particularly this module is concerned, once we are done, you will indeed be able to appreciate the types of private label brands. And trust me, this again is going to be a fun ride for you, because you might have thought that there is only one kind of private label brands. Along with that, we'll also be looking at the benefits of private label brands. And finally, again, we are back with our exciting elements, which is extra fodder for thought, in which we'll be learning about the popular Annalakshmi restaurant in Singapore, and we'll be learning about the Seva Cafe in Ahmedabad. And see, the whole idea or the mystery is going to be about what is it that makes Annalakshmi restaurant Seva Cafe so special, and why they are going to be a discussion point or as a part of extra fodder for thought for us. Along with that, we'll be again back to our learning something new segment, in which we'll be learning about the loss leader. Now let's see, whenever you are talking about private labels, there are precisely four kinds of private label brands. One is generic private label, other one is copycat, the third is premium store brands, and the fourth one is value innovators. Now, generic private brands are basically, let's say, something which has been packed in a transparent sheet. Let's say if you go to a grocery store, you might find salt which is simply being packed in the transparent paper, or let's say any other paper without any brand name or without any proper packaging. Now that can be considered as a generic private label. Many times, even when you get to grocery stores, you might see dry fruits packed in transparent packaging which don't have any other brand name. So in ways, that can also be considered as a private label. Then when you talk about copycat brands, these are also called as me too products and are very much similar to national level brands in terms of the colors which have been picked up, or in terms of the aesthetics or the representation of brands which is being used. Whereas premium store brands are those brands which are even considered much better, or at least at par with the quality of national level brands. Now, premium store could be a brand which could be projected as being, very elite or very classy, even with respect to a national level brand. That's why their prices are sometimes even much higher or even comparable to national level brands. That finally we get to value innovators, which indeed are the best part of private label brands and are considered as value offerings, which means they offer much more for the price which they charge, which also means they offer less for more. So this was a brief discussion about the various types of private label brands, but now we'll be talking about them in detail. So what is the strategy, whether it is about generic private label, copycat, premium store brand, or value innovators? So when it comes to generic private labels, the strategy is to offer the cheapest product. These are precisely packed in black and white packages and usually have no name. So in this case, the whole strategy is about offering a cheapest substitute without any brand name, which means only those consumers are going to buy it which are very much price sensitive and are very much comfortable buying options which are available at a much lesser price. Now, copycat brands are basically the strategies about offering me too products at cheaper prices. But as far as this category is concerned, the prices is at least a little higher than generic private labels, because in this case there is a brand which is being created, there is something which is being spent on packaging, and also with respect to how the perception of brand is being built. Whereas in premium store brand, the strategy is indeed about offering value addition, value much more than the national level brands. So a lot is even spent on branding this particular product or building a perception, which definitely, as far as the wishes of retailers are concerned, needs to be built much better than the national level brands, right? Whereas when it comes to value innovators, the strategy is all about offering best performance price ratio, which again indicates that they are offering you more value for every rupee being spent in buying that particular product, which means you're not paying much price for the product, but quality is also not being compromised. Now in this case, what becomes important is that a retailer definitely has to be an innovator, or has to continuously innovate, and has to also spend on research and development, right? Only then they'll be able to come up with such a fascinating product. Now when we talk about generic private labels and we look at objectives, the objectives are providing customers with a low price option, right? And I think this is completely self explanatory, or to expand customer base. Now in this case, you are also trying to cater or attract the audience or pool of customers which is not willing to pay a higher price, which means they could simply be visiting your retail store because you have generic private labels and which are available at much less price or at very cheaper rates as compared to other retailers in the market. Whereas in case of copycat brands, the idea is to increase negotiating power, increase share of category profits. Now, whenever we are talking about increased negotiating power, what we are trying to say is whenever a retailer will come up with a copycat brands, which means even in terms of the color context or packaging, it kind of looks similar, but definitely all the legal provisions have been followed when it comes to copycat brands. Now, again, why the context of negotiating power? See, once consumers have started liking your private label, which is a copycat brand, or just because the packaging is similar, people might even prefer it more because it is available at a lesser price. So with respect to this, as far as what is to be kept on shelf space, this increases your negotiating power even with the suppliers of the products which are competing with the copycat brands. Likewise, when you talk about premium store brands, they definitely offer a differentiated higher value as compared to other products, and the whole idea is to increase category sales and definitely enhance margins. Now just imagine, premium store brands are definitely very high priced, but if they are sold, your margins are indeed going to be very high also, because you are not sharing any part of profits with the manufacturer, and otherwise also all complete marketing campaign is in your control. However, we can't deny the fact when it comes to premium store brands, you will be definitely spending a lot on marketing also. But in case of value innovators, the objectives are all about providing best value and building customer loyalty. See, if you are providing something to customers which is available at a much lesser price and you are not compromising on quality, then definitely you will be able to build loyalty, right? Which customer would not prefer such a product which is of very good quality and is available at a lesser price as compared to national level brands? And definitely they also bring in word of mouth. Now, if you remember, when we were talking about or looking at the reasons why people buy private labels, there was one reason: it was recommended. Now we can connect the dots. This value innovators definitely generate a lot of word of mouth because of the value they provide to customers, which again brings in a lot of snowball effect with respect to more customers coming and buying private labels which definitely belong to a retailer. Now when it comes to branding, generic private labels have no brand. Copycat brands have umbrella branding, which means they would be marketed under the same brand or the brand which has been conceived by the retailer. But when it comes to premium store brands, the idea of branding is all about store brand or own label, which means you want to strongly associate with your own store, right? Because anyway, in future, you would like to capitalize on the laurels that a premium store brand is going to bring in. But with respect to value innovators also, you would indeed prefer own labels, again to push that association that this particular retailer is offering these products which definitely bring in a lot of value or the best performance price ratio for the customers. Now let's understand the difference between Me Too private label brands and counterfeit products. See, counterfeit products are those products which are produced and sold illegally, right? No legal provisions have been followed as far as their manufacturing is concerned. It is completely illegal, right? Now what you see on screen like Abidas, and even the logo has been kind of copied. This is one of the counterfeit products. Even Belsri, Bilseri, and Brisley, these can also be considered as kind of counterfeit products if they are not being manufactured with all the legal provisions. But in order to understand more about the private label copycats and the fascinating world of Me Too products, I would encourage you to read this LinkedIn post by the Maliki O'Connor, which is the founder of Food First Consulting, and he kinds of discusses in details about the private label copycats and the consequences that are associated with that. So this particular snapshot has also been derived from this particular LinkedIn post which has been written by Maliki. So see, now these are copycat brands. If you see, there is a brand which is called as San Mikkel, but Aldi, what they have done is they have launched a similar copycat brands which looks very similar in terms of how it is being branded, even with respect to the name that has been picked up. Now for another beverage, the brand is Peroni, whereas LD private label is Rossini. Now even if you look at in terms of colors, they look very much similar. Now these are precisely considered as copycat brands and are very different from the counterfeit products which are basically manufactured and sold illegally. Now this again is one thing which I wanted you to understand, but again I would request you to go and read this exciting LinkedIn post by the Maliki, and trust me, you will be able to kind of dig in much more fascinating things about private label brands. Now let's get to another differences that exist between generic private labels, copycat brands, premium store brands and value innovators. Now with respect to pricing, there is a large discount when it comes to generic private labels, approximately ranging to 20 to 50% below brand leader. Now brand leader is one of the marketers who actually captures a major market share. It is one of the brands which is loved by the consumers on a national level. But when it comes to copycat brands, the pricing is moderate and it is precisely 5 to 25% below than the brand leader. Now, if you talk about this in case of Rossini, the prices are definitely going to be 5 to 25% less as compared to Peroni brand. But with respect to premium store brands, the prices are close to or even higher than the brand leader. Whereas in case of value innovators, there is indeed large discount, 20 to 50% below the brand leader. And when you talk about the facets of quality, in case of generic private labels, there is poor quality, cheap packaging. Whereas in case of copycat brands, even packaging is kept very close to the national level brands or close to brand leader. Now we can again see this. Just imagine how similar Peroni and Rossini are looking, right? Now, when you talk about premium store brands, quality is either at par or much more than the national level brands. Whereas in case of value innovators, the functional quality is at par with the branded products, unique but cost efficient. Because the whole idea of value innovators is to offer the best performance price ratio, which means to offer more value for every rupee spent. Now, when it comes to the shelf placement with respect to generic private labels, they are less visible shelves. They would not like to place them on shelves, rather, they would be stocked at some place in the retail store, and definitely the owner will direct you towards them, or the sales staff or the customer care staff will direct you towards them. Whereas in case of the copycat brands, shelf placement is adjacent to the brand leader. Now this again becomes very important because that's how you kind of create or present your own private label with reference to a national level brand, and when they are similar, many times even you will see consumers getting confused or kind of even taking the copycat brand for the national level brand. Whereas in case of premium store brands, the shelf placement is definitely going to be prominent and eye catching, and indeed that becomes reasonable because when a retailer has spent so much in building a premium store brand, then shelf placement has also to be likewise. And for value innovators, normal as all over the store. Whereas even with respect to value innovators, more advertising can be magical because the whole idea about value innovators is you're offering the best of products for a lower price. So this was a kind of enriching discussion about the various types of private label brands, whether it is generic, copycat, premium store or value innovators. And I really hope that you enjoyed learning about these key differences as far as the various categories or facets of private label brands are concerned. Now we'll be looking at the benefits which private label brands provide to different stakeholders. So first is to retailers. Definitely they increase high bargaining power over manufacturers. See, once a private label brand has become popular, kind of won over the loyalty of the customers, then they'll be definitely coming and buying it quite often. So how you utilize that shelf space and also how you capitalize on the opportunity cost of what you keep on shelves definitely brings in a lot of high bargaining power because your private label brands has become popular. If let's say a particular manufacturer or a national level brand is not agreeing to a win-win terms and conditions, then definitely you can decide what can be done in these situations. But again, see, even the preference for national level brands can also not be ignored because many times they appear as anchors, which means they'll bring customers to the store. Now, as far as private label brands are concerned, you definitely have a full control over the marketing of the brand. And again, you stand up winning more store loyalty because private labels are only sold at one retailer. But there could be situations where once what was started as a private label brand could kind of become more popular and even occupies the space of a national level brand, then they definitely bring in higher contribution margin compared to national level brands. If you remember the snapshot, we all saw how the profit margins are distincted between private label brands and national level brands, whereas in case of private label brands they even go up to 70 to 75%, which can never be the case with national level brands. Now, with respect to manufacturers, the benefits are high volume sales, low invest in marketing as compared to national level brand. Now, in this case, the manufacturer is definitely going to be the retailer itself. But many times when you have outsourced production, things can be different. And the benefits that they bring into customers, I think we have already touched upon a lot of things, but these are the three key points. Good quality and lower prices, they definitely help customers save a lot, and there is a high assortment of products or more options in general because you can pick up from both national level brands as well as the private label brands. See, we had a enriching discussion about the benefits of private labels, how they are important, even about the transformation journey that they have. But we can't ignore the national level brands also. So these are the key benefits which a national level brand brings as compared to a private label brand. Attracts huge footfall, which I just said. They many times act as anchors and they'll be bringing a lot of customers to your store. Help in brand building, right? So even if you look about the Cannes retailing success matrix, offering product brand superiority was all about offering well-respected brands. Now that's why they also help in brand building of the store, as well as they can also be one of the key determinants of the success of a retailer store. As far as the national level brands are concerned, promotional cost could be borne by the national brand itself. Now, this is going to be a case in initial stages when a national level brand is trying to establish themselves, they are entering the markets. But once they become popular, it eventually depends upon the terms and conditions which happens between the retailers group as well as the manufacturer of the national level brands. Again, they are building a retailer's image. Now, this again can be looked at from the perspective of Khan's retailing success matrix, and you can connect the dots with respect to product brand superiority. Now, finally, another benefit which comes with respect to national level brands is unsold merchandise can be returned, but in case of private label brands, it eventually belongs to you only, so where you will be returning it. But how much amount will the national level brand reimburse for the merchandise which is being returned or is unsold? Now again, that depends upon the terms and conditions which have been struck between the retailer as well as the manufacturer or national level brand marketer. So these are again a few exciting facets about the importance of national level brands. See, private label brands are going to have their own benefits, but in no ways we can ignore the presence and benefits of national level brands which they bring to the store. Now finally, we'll be looking at the challenges which can be associated with private label brands. So the first is they definitely call for huge investment, right? Because these are indeed manufactured by the retailer itself, or even when outsourced, there is a lot of expenses that need to be incurred. Along with that, especially when you talk about premium store private labels, there is definitely going to be a huge cost of promotion which the retailer will have to incur. Whereas in case of national level brands, we just saw that the promotional expenses could be borne by the manufacturer of the national level brands itself. And many times you will also see that the customers will only have a preference for national level brands. And one of the key reasons behind this is also going to be their hugely expensive integrated marketing communications campaigns, which play a key role in building the perceptions as regards the quality, trust, and affluence are concerned. There is indeed going to be the opportunity cost of shelf space. Now you have to decide what is to be kept on shelves. Specifically, we are talking about the physical and brick and mortar retailers, right? Now, in many cases, you will see you might have a private label brand and the shelf space could be wasted. Now, this again is going to be very costly. You might even have supplier conflicts because suppliers will anyway prefer supplying national level brands, and they might not give that much importance to the private labels. Scale of production. Now only when you have reached the scale of production or your demand reaches to a certain level, only then you are going to reap in more benefits which can be associated with private labels, like bringing down the cost to the minimum. Definitely you can offer it for a less price to the customers for a fact that you might not be spending much on, let's say, promotion if it is a generic private label, or otherwise because you are not sharing your profits with any of the national level manufacturers. So in that case, you can offer a reduced price, but still scale of production becomes important. And finally, the whole battle is going to be about perception. And perception, as I had said in one of the last lectures also, it always exists in the mind of the consumers no matter what retailers or marketers try. So this again becomes a huge battle when you start building perception as far as national level brands are concerned, because many time retailers might not even have that budget for integrated marketing campaigns to kind of present, private label brands in case of quality, trust and affluence with respect to or in terms of competing with national level brands. So these are a few challenges which can indeed be associated with private label brands. But see, there is a lot more to this, and again, we'll be happy to read your comments and views in forum section. Please go there and write about what's your view on private labels, what do you think are the challenges they can have, or even with respect to the benefits that they bring into the retailers, which we might have missed or might not have discussed. And otherwise, you also might have a different perspective. I'll be also happy to read about it and have a discussion about this on the forum section. So please head to the forum section and we'll be happy to read your views there. Now, as we move towards the last leg of this section, I am again proposing you one of the fantastic readings, which is by McKinsey and Company, The Potential for Powerhouse Private Brands, an Updated View. I would again request you to go and click on the link and read more about it. This has been written by Stephen Begley and Angus McCout. So this again is going to give you a very enhanced and nuanced perspective about the private label brands. So please go and read it, and definitely this is going to be a fun learning exercise. Now, as far as this module is concerned, we are again back with our two exciting elements, which is extra fodder for thought and learning something new. So if you remember, in the beginning of the session, I had told you we'll be learning what is so special about Annalakshmi restaurant in Singapore and also about the Seva Cafe in Ahmedabad. So here it is. These both, whether it is Annalakshmi restaurant in Singapore or Seva Cafe in Ahmedabad, they are both using pay what you want pricing, which means after you have had the meal, you will not be handed over the bill. It depends on you what is the price that you want to pay for the meal that you have had, whether it is in the Annalakshmi restaurant, which is indeed a fascinating or very delicious South Indian meal, or about having some snacks or a meal in the Seva Cafe, which is based in Ahmedabad. So pay what you want pricing is one of the most fascinating pricing strategies, in which prices are not decided in advance and even the customers are not told what they are required to pay. Rather, it is left on them what is it that they think is worth paying with respect to the experience, or let's say meal in this case, they have had at the restaurant. Now, as far as this particular pricing strategy is concerned, I would again urge you to go and Google more about it and find out more insightful things about this particular pricing strategy. But for now, we'll be looking at one of the videos on the Annalakshmi restaurant, in which they are talking more about how this functions or how this works, and about other insightful things which can be associated with the Annalakshmi restaurant. And the video has indeed been derived from the OGS official YouTube channel. I would also urge you to visit their channel and maybe look at more of their insightful videos. And once we are done with this, we'll be looking at the video by Seva Cafe, which again is going to provide you exciting insights about how this cafe functions and what is the ideology as far as this particular cafe is concerned. And if you are in Ahmedabad or you get to visit Ahmedabad, please also make a visit to this cafe to understand more intricacies of the pay what you want pricing and how this works. And this particular video has been derived from the official YouTube channel of the Global Oneness project. So please enjoy both these videos, and maybe you can post your comments about pay what you want pricing and what you found exciting about the Annalakshmi restaurant in Singapore and about the Seva Cafe in Ahmedabad. Along with that, I would also encourage you to find out more establishments in India which are using pay what you want pricing, and you can definitely leave your comments and views in the forum section. So happy watching.
We have people who come in and give $2 for a buffet meal, but we also have people who come in and give $50 just for dosa. I don't think it really matters how much everyone gives, because at the end of the day, if that's all they can afford, that's all they can afford. We always make enough for us to open the next day and continue serving people. My name is Harish. I'm a full-time employee at Annalakshmi. Annalakshmi is an Indian vegetarian restaurant that functions on a philosophy of Atiti Devo Bhava, or guest is God. So if tomorrow God were to come to your house and have a meal, you wouldn't give God a bill at the end of the day. A lot of people, the first that comes to mind is it's free food, but we simply do not price our food. We just want to provide home-style food to anyone without them having to worry about the money. Initially, when I first started off volunteering here, it would really make me very, very angry and very upset to see people giving $5 for a meal, or even $2, or even $1. I remember this guy gave a very small amount for his meal, and a few days later, this guy comes back and he said, "I'd like to give back what I owe." It was at that point I really thought to myself, it was so easy for me to judge the person without really understanding what was going on in their own personal lives. I realized it's not my job to question how much people give. Instead, my job is very simple. My job is just serve good quality food, and the money will come when it needs to come. Because you need the thosai to actually stick a little bit, and then after that it releases. I've been making thosais now ever since I started in 2016. For lunchtime, you can see me behind the dosa tawa making dosas. Yes, this is the ghee. There are no tricks. It's not like a teppanyaki bar or something like that. Instead, being at the live station helps me communicate with people. And sometimes I find a lot of people, Indians especially, giving a lot of wrong information to people who don't know much about thosai. So for example, we have a special type of thosai called the Jaffna thosai. When people see yellow color, they're like, "Oh, it must be a pesret or an ade," which are actually two different styles of thosais. They don't even use rice in them. So I'm always happy to stand there and correct them. All the time, people are always asking me what I'm doing with my life and why am I working in a restaurant. But I always knew I wanted to help people, so I guess coming to Annalakshmi and serving people this way has just been the right fit for me. At the end of the day, there's nothing more important in life than your own peace of mind and your own mental and personal happiness. My grandmother and grandfather were one of the first few volunteers to come in. Seeing my grandparents come here and effortlessly serve for nearly 30 years, I kind of caught that spirit, I guess. When Annalakshmi first began, it was a group of grandmothers and mothers who came together to help provide the recipes and to cook. When people come here and have a meal, it feels like they're being fed by a loved one. There's something really beautiful in being able to give back without expecting anything in return. To serve someone good food and then they look at you and say, "Thank you so much. I've been away from home for so long, but today you helped me remember my mother." It's because the volunteers who come here are so involved, are so passionate, that I don't think money has ever been a factor for not just me, but for any of us who serve here in Annalakshmi.
The idea of Seva Cafe is that it's an experiment in the joys of giving. Every day we take 60 customers in, but we don't think of them as our customers, we think of them as our guests. And we ask them to come in and to feel at home and to enjoy this space and to treat it as their own. So we, as a team of people, a group of staff and volunteers, we cook with love, we serve with love, and then in that same spirit, we don't give a bill at the end of the meal. We ask people to pay from their heart, to really think about sort of where the food is coming from, who cooked the food, and also this idea of paying it forward. If you eat today, whatever you leave, pays it forward for the person who comes to eat tomorrow. And that's sort of our overall vision for Seva Cafe. It's an experiment that belongs to everybody. So any person who comes into Seva Cafe is then a part of Seva Cafe. And something else that we really believe in is that you think globally and you act locally. So, you think about the world, but you do something in the local space to sort of make that change happen. The whole idea behind Seva Cafe is that it's a circle of giving, right? And because it's a circle of giving, when I get today, I automatically want to give tomorrow. So our concept is connected with food because everybody loves food and everybody loves to eat. But this is something that you can implement in your life anywhere you go. So it doesn't matter what you're doing, we can all do our part of service in the world. It's just really that whole idea of of being the change that you want to see in the world, it starts with you, and the people around you can't help but feel inspired by it. So anything that anybody does in the world is connected to everybody else. So whether it's Seva Cafe operating in Ahmedabad, or somebody out there working in the slum areas, or somebody in California running a Kurma Cafe, or anybody doing anything, it affects us because at the end of the day, it's about humanity and sort of a collective consciousness, a collective soul force. So we all move when one person has a realization, or one person has an idea, when one person works, and it's just so interconnected that if you look at it, you know, something good happens in one place and it's sort of adding to universal goodness around the world. And I think that sort of energy, just people can't help but feel it when they come in here. So people are often overwhelmed by this idea of coming into a space where people want to serve you. Then they take a lot of inspiration from the team of people that work here. This whole space is about connectivity. It's about connecting. You know, you come and you sit at the table, and Sandeep will come and tell you what the concept is, and Raju will come serve you, and he'll sit with you and talk to you, and people will play with your kids, and you know, somebody will ask you how your food is, and if you want to sit down and play the tabla, go for it. If you want to pick up a book, if you want to run around, like, it's your house. And I think when you come into a space with strangers and you feel at home, you suddenly realize that this world is one family.
Now you can also have a look at the Instagram pages of the Seva Cafe to know more about this particular cafe in Ahmedabad. Now we are again back with our exciting another element, learning something new. So in this case, it is going to be a loss leader. Now a loss leader can also be a retailer, but it is precisely an item that is offered at a loss in order to draw more people into a store. That's why it is known as a loss leader. Now sometimes what retailers would do is they would kind of decrease the prices of products, and they would bear that loss on their own to bring in more customers to the store. Let's say if there is a product which is very popular, maybe we can consider the example of Nestle Maggi, and if there are 3 retail establishments in a locality, and at one it could be available for a price of rupees 7, which could be a loss leader pricing, whereas at other stores it is available at, let's say, 9 or 10 rupees. Now this indicates a case of loss leader pricing, and this can happen for various products, but there are definitely going to be entry cases with respect to the pricing or the contract which exists between the manufacturer as well as the retailer, and that is again one thing which needs to be kept in mind. So as far as this session is concerned, I really hope that you enjoyed learning about in depth about the private label brands, and also about, you know, Annalakshmi restaurant in Singapore as well as Seva Cafe in Ahmedabad, which are precisely operating on the pay what you want pricing, which is one of the complex and I would say kind of a difficult pricing strategy to be executed as far as retailing dynamics is concerned. And finally, learning about a loss leader. So wishing you a good day for now, but as we'll be entering the next session, which is going to be the session 3 of the week 4, we'll be beginning with learning about the multi-channel and omni-channel brands in detail. Wishing you a good day and thanking you for now.